am an evil revolutionary, and have murdered the ambassador, and have turned him into pâté.
Salut à tous, it's Marie from justfriendship.com. Today together we are going to talk about French history, and I'm going to present to you 5 French important events that shaped French society and that you should know about if you are learning French. Keep in mind, obviously, that there is more than 5 important French events, and that I selected those because they really shaped the way French culture, French society is now. But if you're interested in the subject, I put plenty of links in the description below the video, so check that out right after you watch the video. Why should you know about those events? Because if you tend to be fluent in French, there's going to be references to those when French people speak. And so if you don't know them, you're going to be a bit lost. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You will understand the broad meaning of the sentences, right? But if you want to understand it deeply, you need to know about those. C'est parti! The first event that we are going to talk about is le 14 juillet 1789. Le 14 juillet 1789, la prise de la Bastille. La prise de la Bastille. So we're obviously talking about the 14th of July 1789. What happened that day? The storming of the Bastille by the Parisian people. Yeah, I know, obvious, you didn't tell me. But not so much, because you know, the French Revolution is a bit more complex than all the people at the gates of the kings, Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake and then guillotine. You know, as any revolution, the French one was not only based on the idea of people governing the people, but also it was a reaction to a long process of political, economical, and cultural instability. And if you want to know more about it, I recommend this video, which I will put the link in the description below the video, because it's short yet historically correct, which, believe me, is quite hard to find. But well, why is it important for you as a language learner to know about it? Because it is the event that is considered the starting point of the French Revolution, where the literal fight for equality began. The Bastille was a prison, a place where the king would throw the nobles that he didn't like, basically. So the whole imagery of taking the Bastille and storming the Bastille was symbolic, but the symbolistic aspect of it arrived after, because mainly at the moment it was about stealing weapons and finding weapons to fight. Regardless, it is still regarded by French people as a very important event and held in really high esteem. This event is maybe the main reason why French people feel so free to take it to the streets when something is not to their liking. It's a question of the right of the people, the power of the people. And that's a bloody powerful French value, which has definitely inspired most of the events that we are going to see now. For the little story, the 14th of July is France's National Day. But it's not, first of all, it's not Independence Day, because we did not become independent of anyone. But the date was actually chosen to be a commemoration of the Fête de la Fédération, which was held a year after the Prise de la Bastille. And the Prise de la Bastille, the date of the Prise de la Bastille was actually regarded as too violent to be commemorated on its own, so that's why they chose the date a year after. But that's a little known fact, I think. Août 1944, la Libération. Août 1944, la Libération. August 1944, the liberation of Paris. You know, both world wars were very traumatizing for France, but especially the second, as France was occupied and ruled by the Nazis. La Libération is the term historians will use to refer to the liberation of France as a whole. But when a French person mentions La Libération, he or she is probably referring to the liberation of Paris, la libération de Paris. Why is it an important date to remember as a language learner? Well, the date itself doesn't really matter. What matters is what happened, and the spirit of it, if you will. Again, as the revolution, this is all about imagery. Even if the facts are a bit more, grey, the French population remembers the liberation of Paris as an act of resistance from the Parisians. And yes, in fact, the Parisians indeed started the liberation on their own with strikes from the railway workers, which are still striking very often, the metro worker, same thing, the gendarmerie, which is the military police, and finally the police. So for French people, it's not that different from the revolution, an uprising of the population against a common oppressor, which in this case wasn't French, was an enemy. So we are in the same spirit as the French Revolution, an uprising of the people, taking over, refusing to do tasks and just resisting the oppressor. And that's something that you can still find to some extent in some French people, the fact that we don't handle the fact that people try to overpower us, especially in the workplace, and I talked about that in more details in my ebook on Show Off Your French to Your Boss. The link is in the description below the video. Mai 1968, mai 68, May 1968. This one is probably the least internationally known event on this list, but it's damn important for the popular history of France. We like uprising, if you get anything from this list, it's the fact that they're all uprisings. And this is another one. Now, in the mid-60s, you have to imagine a France where there is a true divide between older and young generations. I'm not just talking about age, I'm talking there's a true divide of culture, ideologies, and even realities. De Gaulle is president at this moment. De Gaulle is a military man, general. But on the other side, students, so younger generation, are protesting against war, against the Vietnam War. And if there is one value that young people feel like they don't have, it is freedom. Now, that's one part. Beside all of that, you also have the working class that is not going very well. There is high unemployment, low salaries, factories are closing. Internationally, it's the period of the hippies, of sexual liberation, the civil rights movement in the US. So all of that just, started to bubble. And on the 13th of May, after a series of demonstrations from the students and from the workers, a general strike began. And this is going to literally paralyze France and forces the dialogue between generations, between strangers in the street and different political parties. Now, it was a bit more violent than that, we agree, but that's the main idea of it. So why is it important for you as a French learner to know about it? Because it really shaped the way French people talk about politics. Debates, discussions, strikes. And you'll see that if you make friends with French people, debating is huge, especially when it comes to politics, philosophy, and sometimes even history. Also, the movement gave us some pretty amazing slogans that we will see together in Vendredi's video. Here's a few previews of the slogans that we will see together in more details in Vendredi vocabulary. Il est interdit d'interdire. Sous les pavés, la plage. 12 juillet 1998. 1998. La Coupe du Monde de football en France. Maybe you're going to think I'm silly and it probably won't be remembered as much as the other events on this list, maybe less important in the scheme of things. But still, chances are that anyone in France that was born maybe before 1993 remembers it. France won the Football Cup at home for the first time, beating Brazil 3-0. See, I even remember the details of it, so that shows you how important it is. So why is it important for you as a language learner to remember the 1998 World Cup? It's important because French people still have memories of the slogans, of the songs, and of the giant parties that followed. It's really something that entered into the legend of French parties and the French spirit, especially in sports. You will see slogans like Black, Blanc, Beurre, Black, Blanc, Beurre. This slogan was to refer to the ethnicity of the players. Another slogan that people still remember is Et 1, et 2, et 3, 0, and 1, and 2, and 3, 0, which is the final score. And the inevitable Gloire Gaynor. What? Yes, I Will Survive was a huge hit at the time. And at parties or when friends win something nowadays, you can still hear French people singing the part of the song that has no lyrics. So the part of the song that is la 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 la. Bref, it's another time the French people, the French population was in the streets partying, celebrating as one nation, and that's something that really entered into the legend of the French nation, at least in the mind of French people. And the final event, which is way less funny than the soccer cup, it is 2015, 2015, Je suis Charlie and Je suis Paris. France is definitely no stranger to terrorism. I mean, you can check the list of terrorist attacks in France on Wikipedia, it's quite huge. And you have like centuries of terrorism on French territory. But 2015 was definitely a dark year and so close that everyone in France nowadays will remember it. It's a bit like the 9/11 for us. So 2015 saw a series of terrorist attacks on France. There is two main ones, there has been a few in between, but really in January, two men attacked the offices of a satirical magazine called Charlie Hebdo, and they killed, well, they murdered 8 people. And in November 2015, 3 groups of men, so 3 different groups, attacked the Bataclan, which is a concert hall in Paris, le Stade de France, where the president was actually attending a game, and several restaurants and cafes. They've murdered in total 130 people. I'm going to pass on the details of the shootings because what interests me is what happened afterwards. Why were the attacks of 2015 important for you to remember? What's important is actually the fact that French people went in the streets afterwards, because both series of attacks were clearly targeting the French culture, especially freedom of speech for the second one, and the fact that we were out and about and partying at night. And I'm sure you have heard the slogans that were used and reused on social media afterwards. Je suis Paris. Je suis Charlie. And the fact that French people really reacted very strongly to those attacks, especially to the Charlie Hebdo one, is a sort of statement of how much freedom of speech is really important, really a core value of French culture. Also, and I think it's important to remember, that's kind of the theme of this video, is that when French people are experiencing strong feelings, they take it to the streets. Would it be anger, oppression, would it be happiness, or even philosophical ideas with Mai 68? And all of those times that French people are in the street, it's to defend their values, their strong values, the values of the French nation. Do you have any questions? Because that's it for today. As usual, please give me a thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe if you enjoy my content, and comment if you have any questions. I hope that this video was very interesting to you. I hope at least that you learned a lot. And I'll see you vendredi for Vendredi Vocabulary on the Mai 68 slogans, which we're going to have a lot of fun looking at. And then I'll see you next week for another video on Just French It. À la prochaine! Do you want to learn French? You don't know how to start? I suggest you download the Roadmap to Fluent French. It is a step-by-step guide on how to learn real French. The link is in the description below the video. You can download it for free on my blog, so go and check it out.